Hello, and welcome to another episode of the True Brit podcast. I'm so happy to be sitting here with Paige. We just giggle every time we're together because, we just love each other. And I'm sure you can hear the ridiculously loud jungle noises in the background. We are literally sitting in a screened-in hut in the middle of the jungle at Dreamglade. But I know a lot of you really liked the last episode that we had together. So I'm like, well, we're here together at Dreamglade. We got to record another episode. So this time we thought we'd talk about plant medicine. Yay! One of our favorite topics. But also, just Paige's time here. So I'm gonna turn it over to Paige and just say, how's your experience been so far? She's laughing at me.
Dreamglade is it's my heaven on earth. I first came here when I was 25. And I was telling Brittany that I just feel like a piece of my soul has never left this place. And every time I come back, I go, I don't feel like I've ever left. And just coming back here is like coming back home. And my intention for this trip was coming back and kind of paying my respects and saying goodbye to this place. Which I don't feel like I am actually saying goodbye to this place. I have a very strong feeling I actually will be back. And this past almost week has just really been about my own healing, and my own work with the plants. So it's been really incredible. And should I give a trip report?
Sure, let's go for it. Give the people what they want.
A little context, I guess. So for the past 6 months, I've been doing a lot of concentrated medicine work, specifically working with Wakshuma, down in the Sacred Valley, and going on, a 9-day-long plant dieta, and just really learning and cultivating knowledge about all the different plants in Sacred Valley, working with coca, cacao, tobacco. And so turning back to ayahuasca, which the last time I was here was in November, it was a really interesting experience. She just welcomed me again with open arms, and my first night was this beautiful experience of being surrounded by all of my plant allies, by the Apus, or the mountains, which was kind of funny, but I feel they came with me to the jungle, and really enjoying and loving being in my own energy, knowing that that's kind of the only place I have to be, and getting some bigger concepts of that anything I'm grasping onto for dear life, like let's say a job, for security, is it's an illusion. And we're all kind of living in this, as humans, living in this illusion of any semblance of control. And the truth is, none of us really have any, and we have to feel that and accept that. And that's actually where the freedom is, in letting go. That was a big one on my first ceremony. I'm trying to think what else came up in the first ceremony. There was a lot. It was a beautiful long night. The medicine stayed with me all night.
Oh my God, we were purging. I drank that night too. We were just purging together and then separately with our coordinated burping.
It was a lot. It was a lot of back and forth with some really funky noises.
Really ridiculous. Me and Paige, just one girl in between us. She actually told us that we somehow empowered her, which is really cool. But our burping on either side of her, just making these wild noises and just being free with it, empowered her to just take up space and be herself. And she was so cute. She's and then I just made this little and it felt so good. And me and Paige are disgusting on either side. Just God, she's so cute.
That was hilarious. She was you guys made me feel like I could be loud because between the two of us, I mean, we're just burping left and right, purging every other second. I mean, it was a hot mess.
It was so wild. And one of my favorite parts of the night was at the end of the night when we were like, me and Paige were standing on the balcony, and there's this man here. I won't say his name in case he doesn't want to be disclosed, but he is so cute. He's almost 80 years old, which is an anomaly, of course, here at an ayahuasca center, but like, he was turned away from other centers, and we did like a full screening on him, and like our curandero said he's healthy enough to do this, and he really wanted to do this for like a decade. So him being here is amazing. And then his second ceremony, he fucking took off. So the same night Paige is talking about, and just like starts making all these like moaning noises and these like really adorable like singing noises, like oh, you know, like just so cute. And then at the end of the night, he came out and stood on the rail, like next to the railing with me and Paige, and me and Paige were just talking him through some stuff about how to interpret his trip, but we're also like burping mid-sentence. So I'll be like, you know, well, shit, I just said his name. Forget I said that. Well, like, you know, like this and this is fine because, you know, just accept whatever you get. And he's looking at us like,
just look around like, what is going on? At one point he goes, hang on to the handrails.
Because we were acting like it was so normal to just be burping and spitting mid-conversation. Because it is normal for us after an ayahuasca ceremony while we're still on ayahuasca. But yeah, that was just such a good night. And I love how, I mean, I'm going to stop after this. I just wanted to allow you some time to think about the rest of your trip. But also, like, I love when you said that you were feeling so good in your own energy. Because there's no feeling like that where you just really feel like, oh, I'm actually like really good here and in my space. And because I sometimes, like, I usually feel like that, but sometimes kind of stray from that or forget that feeling and then have to come back to myself. So it's like returning home to yourself, coming home to yourself. And when you feel good in yourself, then there's nothing that feels as good as that. Like, that's just so beautiful that you are there now. Like, it's been, I literally feel like I've watched you turn into a woman over the past couple years.
100% you have.
It's so beautiful.
It's totally, yeah, my relationship with the plants is like, has totally transformed, and it's totally transformed me. But yeah, it's like this really beautiful thing of, it almost hits me in this way of like, of course I love myself so much because like, I don't even know if this is going to make sense, but there's just this feeling of like, if I could, like, I built this house, like, almost like if I could pick all of the things that I love the most, like, that is already me. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's like kind of the feeling of it. And also this feeling of like, I have access to my soul, you know, in these spaces, but also like in this work and also just right now in my life. Like, I have such clear access to the depths of my soul.
Sorry, someone's walking outside. I think we're good. It might be the night watchman. I know we're good. Okay. But yeah, continue.
Yeah. And it's just been so beautiful. And this feeling of, like, of course people would want to be around me kind of thing. Like, I want to be around me. Like, I love, like, there's no other energy that I would rather be in besides my own energy. And if I feel that way, like, others must feel that way. And, just this really like magnetic, frequency and just sitting in it, you know? And, yeah, I mean, it was just such a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. I mean, I had this, one moment with Raul, one of the curanderos here, where he was singing at me, you know, and I felt him almost as if he was literally right next to me. His singing was so loud in my ear, and then I just felt these like almost like strings from him into my body, these like energetic strings of him like just like holding me and doing so much work on me, and feeling him and the Bobansana just kind of work and move through my body. And I mean, it was just so beautiful, so incredible. And also had a really, really beautiful limpieza with him. Like, and man, I let out this purge, which was really wild. I think with so much like concentrated medicine work, and you're dealing with other people, and you're dealing with yourself and old stuff, and there's just been so much like crazy excavation going on with all this medicine work. And well, a lot of times they say what Wachuma doesn't get, like ayahuasca can get into those cracks, and the opposite is also true. And so I think working so much with one medicine and then going to the other, it clears out the stuff that the first medicine doesn't. And so this purge was like, it was like the longest, saddest cry of like a dying person coming out of me. And it just felt dead. I mean, it just felt like whatever I was releasing was just almost like as gross as it is, like a dead corpse inside of me, but it was like coming out. And it was incredibly cathartic.
And I will say that purge, like, I'm not going to do it for you guys right now because it's impossible to like replicate, but I think I was getting my lymphedema during that or something. But like, I hear this purge start as like I think it started as a belch into a puke, but then into a scream. And I felt it so deeply in my being that I was like, that is like so important and powerful. And I honestly, this sounds so fucked up, but it was inspiring to me because like I feel like as much as I am like an empowered, independent, strong woman, like that moment made me realize that I have been keeping some stuff inside, and I haven't been just like, there's been the last 2 ceremonies that were really intense for me before you came. There were moments where I wanted to scream during ceremony, and I would like go out into the bathroom and grab the puke bucket from the floor and put it in my lap and like growl and like make these crazy noises and move around, but not scream. Like I didn't allow the scream to come up. It would start to come up and I would just kind of pussy out. I'd be like, ugh, you know, like, ugh. And when I heard you scream, it just unlocked something in me where I think we've been talking about this week, but it like gave me a permission slip to be like, if you ever need to do this, do it. Like just fucking make the noise, almost like we did for that other guest. It's like empowering others to just do what you feel in this like ceremony space or in life. Just don't hold back. Like just be you and fully be you. And it was it was an amazing moment, honestly. It
really was an amazing moment. Like I will never forget that. But yeah, also, I mean, it's like we're learning obviously every day as we go. And yeah, I think there was just something beautiful in that, because it's like you were doing what you could do, and you were doing your part, and you were helping yourself, and you were moving the energy, and you were working with the curanderos. But it's also really, really, really beautiful that then like it just takes a friend to come in, you know, and just like hold that space for you and like move that through for you.
Dude, that was like what my whole night was about, was after I heard that noise. So it was so funny because it was like such an intense, you know, feeling and all this stuff. And then I sat back down and replayed that moment in my head and couldn't stop giggling. Like it was so inappropriate, you know, like, you know, quote unquote inappropriate, because I'm like, this is like, she's going through some fucked up stuff, who knows, but I'm dying laughing because all I could picture was me the past few ceremonies dribbling this ball and like taking these weak shots. Like I'm so bad at sports. Everyone who knows me knows this. Like I'm no hand-eye coordination. So I'm just like dribbling this ball and like, you know, like shooting it with a foot pop, and it's like not quite going in. And then Paige, just like beautiful fucking ally, just comes in and is like, whoa, bam, just like slam dunks the ball with her scream. And I was like, that's what it needs. Like, that's what I've been, like, that's literally the missing piece. She just comes in first night and is just like, you shall not pass. It just like slam dunks. I don't even know if that's the right term, but sports.
Do you ever, it reminded me of, I don't know, did you ever see, like, this is from when we were probably like 12 or 13 years old, Nick Schwartzen, like a stand-up special. Does that ring a bell? No. He has this, he's talking about how his grandma, like, thinks he's like the strongest guy ever, and he's like, it's awesome because all I have to do is lift up a gallon of milk and go, you mean this gallon of milk, Grandma? And he's like, Nicholas, you're the strongest boy in the world. That's, for some reason, that's all that was coming to mind. Like, when you were telling me that, it's like, oh, you mean this bellyache?
Yeah, you're like, that was nothing, sister. That was nothing. It was just such an epic moment where so many things came together for me, where I'm like, she's helping me realize, like, I can be loud, and she's also helping me realize, like, sometimes you just need a friend to come in and just offer some support. Like, and before that ceremony, we had talked about how I won't go into it, but I've been having some, like, energetic stuff I've been working on, and I didn't even tell Paige the details. I was just like, maybe you could help me with this, but I'm not even going to tell you what it is because I don't want you to focus on me. Like, I literally just want you to go in ceremony, focus on your own healing, and that will be what helps me. And, like, that's exactly what you did. And that is exactly what helped me.
Yes.
So,
and it helped me, too, because I think I really went in there with this intention of staying in my own space. And I before the ceremony even started, I was calling in protection. I was almost calling in, like, a bubble. I was calling in my plant allies, like I said, like the mountains. And it was helping me feel so contained in my own space, which was really the medicine that I needed, was to feel so amazing in my own space. And that was really what my ceremony was about. And I really felt early on in that ceremony, I think maybe even before we drank, just feeling like, no, what I need to do here is exactly that, is to just be in my own space, be protected in my own space, shine bright like a diamond.
Yes,
but that in and of itself is going to do the work. And I just really trusted that, because I think part of our growth, like both you and I, is learning that it's like, there's not really a doing most of the time. Like, I mean, even in ceremony, I sometimes have this feeling as if I'm like I have things to do during the ceremony or something like that, where like, which is like so crazy. But I had this experience a couple of times in the ceremony, after, like, I was in the bathroom and I'm just thinking, like, okay, when I get back, it's like, no, there's nothing to do. Like, you just sit and that's it. There's nothing to do.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the times we're used to being people pleasers and doers and just so active and stuff. And so I think it's been like a journey for us to understand, my real power is in just holding myself and holding my own space and being that presence and being that lighthouse. And, and that's where the magic is, which is so cool, because I think that moment of, like, that purge, was so beautiful, because you went up to the limpieza, it happened, and then it was like, when it was done, that was it.
That was it.
We don't have to think about it again. We don't have to talk about it again.
Yes.
I mean, it's good to recap, but
like, talk about it on the
podcast. But just this feeling of, I think there was other times, maybe, a year ago or however long ago, that it would have probably been so, like, fascinating and curious to us. We would have wanted to dive into, like, and, like, oh my God, I have special powers, and, like, all of that kind of stuff. And the growth for me being here, and it's really been like, wow, like, we're not attached to any of that anymore.
Yes.
And it's awesome. And even if there's, like, a little attachment here and there with different thought processes, it's like, ultimately it's leaving. It's not, we're moving in the direction of, like, our real work is within ourselves. And then anything like that happens that we can assist with, it just happens, and it's whatever.
Yes. Yeah. And a couple parts stood out to me there, where, like, one of them is related to, I don't know if you were here when I was just talking about this, but one of my ayahuasca ceremonies was so clearly telling me, like, you never need to be in a hurry. Yeah. Because I kept hearing the word prisa in the Icaros, which they probably weren't even saying, but it means hurry, I think. To me, whatever. That's what it meant to me during the ceremony. And I was just realizing, of course I kept hearing it when I'm, like, running around for no fucking reason. Literally, I'm on my mat, and I'm, of course, a facilitator, so I'm working, but I'm on ayahuasca, and when I'm going to the bathroom, I find myself, like, walking really quickly, and then sitting on the toilet and trying to get in and out as quickly as possible, and then get back to my mat. For what? And I realized I was doing this, and ayahuasca kept telling me, like, you don't need to be in a hurry ever.
Yeah.
And like, there's no reason to hurry. There's always enough time. And the fact that my dad has always been telling me this, but of course it takes ayahuasca to make me listen. It's like, when you're in a hurry, you don't actually get things done well. If you're present and just conscious and moving, like, things will get done.
Yeah.
Like, everything's going to unfold as it needs to. There's no need to rush. There's no need to hurry.
Yeah.
So that was the part that stuck out to me, because I was like, we've gotten the lesson. Like, there's no hurry, there's no rush. We're going to be in the right place when we need to be, and there's no doing.
Yes.
Like, when we need to do something, it will just come up, and we'll know that we have to do it, and then we just do it, and then it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's just done.
But there's no need to, like, hold that mental space of that kind of anxious nervousness of like, okay, well then this and then this and then this and then after that I'll do and just like having that in the back of your mind. It's like, no, just be present, be with yourself. Like, it's all gonna come in its own time. It's already done, whatever it is. Like, there's no
and it's such a huge lesson from ayahuasca to the world, because of course everything's a metaphor. And it's like, ayahuasca has literally forced me so many times to take that lesson, because I am by nature such a control freak and that kind of thing. So ayahuasca has made, I don't know why I just said it like that.
Ayahuasca.
It's like she literally just like came up my body, but she's been teaching me. This is actually plays in perfectly to what I'm about to say, which is like, I'm not in control. Like, I am not in control. Like you said at the beginning, I literally, whatever she gives me, she gives me.
Yep.
I can't be in control of how intense the night is going to be, the duration of the trip, when it's going to set in, what lessons I learn. Like, she's totally in control of that. And I just have to surrender and trust that it's going to be exactly what I'm supposed to get. And again, we can take that lesson and just apply it to life.
Yep.
It's like, if we could just do this in life, and again, just like you were saying at the beginning, it's an illusion of control. And if we can just realize that, it's like, I love Stace's saying, the future will take care of itself. That's become one of my mantras of when I start finding myself just constantly worrying about the future.
I feel that really big. Yeah. The future will take care of itself. And what's so amazing about like working with the plants like this is like, you become really sensitive to your own intuition, which is like the key part. And when that happens, it's like breadcrumbs. You take one step, the next step kind of reveals itself, and the next step kind of reveals itself. And as long as you stay honest with yourself about what's really going on, and conscious enough to be, to be honest with you and what's going on with you, I think that's how it will unfold. And inevitably, that is the future. Just step by step, you know? I mean, that's
step by step.
Totally how I feel.
And I just want to take this moment to like give you props, because you've grown so much, and I know I have too, just over the past couple of years. But I remember when you first came here, and again, this wasn't your first time at Dreamglade, but it was the first time I was here when you were here. And
my first time in 7 years, so it was
So
felt
it was
like
a while.
Yes.
And I remember so we had this funny moment where I literally hadn't met you, and I'm leading you into the Maloka, and I said a joke about your name, like, oh, we're on the same page, haha. And then I was like, that's, in my head, I'm like, that's so awkward, I hope that's okay. Like, you know, spiraling into, like, maybe that wasn't the best thing to say to someone tripping on ayahuasca, but then it led Paige down this road of, like, I remember you said something to me, because it was so beautiful. It was like, I wondered, are we the same person? And then I started thinking, like, if I met myself, would I like myself? And when you said that, I, of course, paused and reflected on it. And I was like, would I? I'm getting goosebumps right now, because
I am too, because there's a lot of full circle moments there.
Yes.
Like, a lot.
Yes, and I kept thinking about that when you're talking about, like, I literally have full body chills. I don't even know why.
That's crazy. Also, the same page, and we can...
Yes. Sorry, we're making little hand motions. We'll
explain.
But in that moment, I thought to myself, when you shared that with me, I was like, that's a great question. Would I like myself if I met myself? And I think we talked about this already, but when you're here, because I was like, I think initially I would hate that person, because I was like, I would just criticize every single little thing about her, because that's what I do with myself. But if I really think about it, I would only do that for a little bit, and then I would fucking love it. Like, I would just love me. And that, again, full circle with what you're talking about, it's like being so comfortable in your own energy. It's like, that's the most comfortable space. I would just want to go hang out with me all the time, because like that's how I feel now. But back then, I mean, this was only a couple of years ago that we were questioning whether we even would enjoy being with us.
Yeah.
And now we're like, fuck yes, like whole body chills, yes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, I can't even like express how much of my life, really up until, the last year and a half, where so much of my life has transformed, that I did not like myself, like, at all. I mean, not even a little bit. In fact, I don't like to even use this word, but I really had trouble with self-loathing for so much of my life. Like, true, deep, like, self-anger, self-hatred, like, really awful. So to even for 1 second reach the space where I can feel love for myself, and I can feel that I, just as simple as like myself, which is almost even bigger in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Is like, it's so beautiful and so magnificent. But I think what happened with us, or at least like from like when I met you, it was, I saw you on the Dreamglade website, like before I came back, and I read the little bio about like how you came to Dreamglade and how, all that stuff. And, you were a guest here beforehand, and then you kind of came back a few years later, and, which was the same as me. And I remember reading that, and in a life that I was unhappy in this life in New York, that I just was unhealthy in so many ways, reading that and really desperate for healing, was going through a really, really, really hard time in my life, and thinking, oh man, that could have been me. Like that, we might as well have been me. I could have done that if I only had asked earlier, if I only had whatever it was. And then, so I knew going in to meet you, you were, I don't think I thought of it as you were going to be triggering to me, but I definitely, because I don't even think I was necessarily that aware of really what I wanted. But I knew I had feelings about like, oh man, this girl's here and I'm not, kind of thing.
Right.
But I had strayed so far away from that path. So like, of course, and so that was our kind of already existing. And then I remember that first ceremony, and you said the pun, and I don't think I responded. I think I was too high to respond. And so you just
sat
me back
out. I was like, oh no, this was a horrible mistake. But
so you brought me back to the bed, and yeah, I had this whole thing of like, wow, almost like, are we the same person? Because I'm a freak for puns. And the fact that she just like walked me back and used a pun with my name, I was like, are we the same person? And also like, man, if that's another version of me, like, would I like myself? And it, opened up this whole can of worms. But, also I think it goes to show like, you and I, in so many ways, we were always on the same path. But they're different paths, but they're the same. They're going in the same direction.
Yes.
And I think in some way that was me recognizing that.
Yes.
And it's just really wild that it's come so full circle that like I'm now living in Peru, and we're even sitting here and doing this, and like we're on the same page.
We're literally on the same page. Okay, maybe not literally, but we are on the same page. And it's so funny because I remember you saying something like, I wonder what it would, like, you explained this a little bit to me the first time, where you're like, I wonder what it would have been like if I would have worked here. And I remember thinking like, this girl has been so nice to me and kind, but like, I've seen other women who have similar triggers where they're not like nice and kind, because I felt this almost thing coming up where I'm like, oh, like she would wish that she had this job. I almost feel bad about it. But then it wasn't like this bad energy at all. Yeah. It was almost like you were just taking that as a chance to reflect, which was so fucking cool, because you did that, and so did Des, like one of our other amazing friends who's also on the same track, same direction. Yeah. And she said, the same thing to me at first, which is like, or not the same, but similar, where it's like, usually women like you would kind of trigger me because you're doing what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about how, I mean, like, this is one reason why I'm here, is because I saw all of these women who I was so jealous of and wanted their life. And then eventually I just got so sick of that. And I was like, why can't I just have their life then? Like, what's holding me back? It's just me.
Yes. If this bitch can do it.
If this bitch can do it, so can I. That was going to be my book title. Feels a little aggressive. I said that to one guest and they were like, you sound very angry about it. And I was like, I don't mean to be angry. It's more of an empowering thing. But okay, if it comes off as angry, like, I definitely do not want to disempower, like, you know, sisters with sisters. So not the vibe I'm trying to go for. But, but seriously, like, if that bitch can do it, so can I.
Yeah.
And it's true though. If you see someone that you're jealous of or that is triggering for you, it's like, well, then go that way.
Yes.
That's something inside of you being like, we want that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay, let's talk more about that, because you were such a, I mean, honestly, like, the biggest teacher for me in so many ways. But it, like, you know, it came out of some of those more thorny feelings inside of myself, right? But ultimately it was like, and I think this came when I was here in November and I stayed here for 10 days. I mean, I really had a whole process that time. Like, I was going deep and shedding skins and being buried alive and the whole thing. I mean, it was just a really intense week for me. And one of the big things that came out of it for me was recognizing that, you know, I had all these feelings coming up, not the whole time, but there was like 1 or 2 days, like a ceremony day and the day after, where I started to get these feelings about you that, like, you know, like jealousy type feelings. Like, because I was now really doing the medicine work, and I just was like, God, I just want to, like, be here. I just, like, but she has this job, and I was still kind of, like, hooked into, like, really wanting to be here, specifically at Dreamglade. And I journaled about it, and I was getting annoyed at myself. I was like, dude, like, this is my friend. Like, why am I feeling this way? And I had to really dig deeper, like, to ask myself, like, okay, really, what is this? And I think really what it was that I was as vulnerable as I could be that week. And you were there and you were seeing it all. And I felt very exposed. I felt very messy. I felt all of the things that you feel when you're vulnerable. Like, I just felt naked. And I don't know if I was, like, ready to feel naked, you know? And I knew that, like, I'm gonna cry, but like as a sister, you saw it all. And you just loved me and accepted me. And that was really fucking uncomfortable for me. Because if I was going to because I kind of had to, it's like, you have to be able to really see yourself in all that vulnerability and accept yourself in all that vulnerability before you can kind of let other people do it, you know? I mean, it can kind of maybe happen at the same time, but it was just this feeling of, like, damn, that's what it is. Like, I even felt that way with Drew. I was starting to get feelings of, like, oh, Drew doesn't want me here, oh, da-da-da-da. Like, all of these just kind of insecure feelings around you guys. And I think it was a breathwork ceremony that I just realized, like, oh my God, this is me being so uncomfortable in being that exposed in front of these people who just love me. And it's like, can I let myself be loved in all of this messiness that I'm feeling and all of this vulnerability that I'm feeling? And it was a big turning point for me. I mean, like, massive. And I just recognized, like, wow, that is Brittany standing in her light and, like, giving me permission to, like, do the same thing, you know? I mean, it was like insanely powerful. to this day, it's like, I just am so grateful for that. And I'm also grateful for myself that I was able to really like see what was actually going on there, you know, and allow for that like shift to happen. Yeah.
This is where I was going to take this. Was like, first of all, wow, like, thank you. And I honestly, like, I really appreciate and I'm receiving everything you're saying about me, but I want you to know that, like, you're the one who did all that work. And, like, yes, I stand here in absolute admiration and, like, love for you. And I'm so happy you felt that. But really, like, you're the one who did the work. And you're the one who, like I was trying to get at earlier, it's like I felt those feelings were there. We never really, like, discussed them. Or you might have said a few things, but it wasn't, we didn't make it a big deal. But I could tell that instead of putting it on me and just avoiding me and, like, not wanting to talk to me or, doing the things that we do as humans to, like, deal with our triggers as in just escape them or just avoid them, you went into it. Like, you journaled about it. You, like, really got to the bottom of it and transformed it. And that is so admirable because most people don't do that. And, like, it's so funny you talking about this about me because I don't know if I've told you this about you, but you are also, like, a trigger for me in a lot of ways. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but, like, I've told other people. Because you would be doing this, like, crazy stuff during ceremonies. And I remember, like, this one guy after, so I don't think I'd been working here that long. So I was kind of insecure about me doing this job because it's an insane fucking job. I still don't know what I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like shamanic realms. Who knows? It's just like, I don't ever want to fuck somebody up or, whatever. Yeah. So it was a lot of insecurities about that job, specifically at that point. And I remember you came in and you're having all these wild ayahuasca ceremonies and everything was so clear and you were doing this crazy, like, amazing work. Honestly, like, amazing, epic work. And there was this one point after a ceremony where one of the guests was talking to me and, like, I loves you. Like, I loves you.
I loves you.
I loves you. And he knew I loved you, so he was trying to be nice. And he's, like, says to me, like, I think Paige is the most powerful person in that room. And
damn, you're gonna have to tell me who said that.
Yes, I don't want to say his name out, but, like, the first thought I had, which I'm not proud of, I was like, what the fuck, like, above me? Which is so ridiculous because
but that's what I would think.
Yeah, my next thought was like, well, okay, what about the curanderos? What about Drew?
I mean, it's a little of a, it's kind of not really exactly spot on.
Yeah, but it's so funny that I judged myself for that thought, which was, I'm like, oh, well, I'm justifying that thought later. Like, yes, like, that's a ridiculous thing to say. Of course, the curanderos are more powerful than Paige, which, who knows? Maybe they're not. But in my head, I just felt bad about, like, the initial thought, which was, how dare he, like, think Paige is more powerful than me? Which actually led me down this whole road, which was really cool about power and why I was so uncomfortable. So we're going, like, all kinds of different forks here, but I think...
But it's kind of the same...
It's kind of the same thing where I'm like, I realized... I had this one ceremony where when I was dieting tobacco... I'll real quickly go on this because it relates to you, where I was... And Lydia, our curandera, who's, like, this powerful...
Yeah, so I was going to say, talk about power. That's...
powerful curandero. And I still, to this day, think you are incredibly powerful. So I had this problem. That one comment from him after ceremony... was enough of a, like, it triggered something in me enough to the point where I was like, yeah, just like you said, let's excavate this. Like, let's get to the bottom of this because it's not, I don't want to be sitting here jealous of Paige. It's obviously something deeper. And I think one of my next ceremonies was, I was dieting tobacco. I think you might have still been here this time, but it was one of the hardest ceremonies I had had yet. And I was freaking struggling, man. It was a shamanic experience, I'll just put it that way. And then I went up for my personal healing, my limpieza, with Lydia. And all of a sudden, I realized I'm sitting in front of this really powerful curandero. Like, that sentence kind of just came into my head. And I was like, powerful. Like, so why am I okay saying Lydia's powerful, but I'm not okay when someone says that Paige is powerful? And then I realized, like, oh, I'm okay with saying empowered. Like, I'm okay that Paige is empowered, but I'm not okay, quote unquote, with her being powerful. Why? Then I realized that I've had this what's the word, like, stereotype. I've had this bad connotation of the word powerful because I've always thought that when people, like, power corrupts. This is just something I've had in my head where when you get powerful, you do bad shit. And there's no escaping that. This was like this belief that was in my head until this ceremony where I realized, like, I've been afraid of being powerful and I've been afraid of powerful people because I've always thought that it's a bad thing. But in that moment, seeing Lydia in her power and feeling me in my own power, I was like, it's okay to be a powerful woman. And that's when I realized too, damn, it has not been okay to be a powerful woman. Like, for a really, 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 really long time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me feeling jealous of Paige being powerful. It was this whole deep, like, ooh, that's actually dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually not... I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this because it's just so deeply true that we have been afraid. And I don't want to go down this whole other tangent, but it's like, that was a very amazing, great ayahuasca story of how, like, one comment from one ceremony just kind of went into all these other things where I realized I'm afraid of being in power and I'm kind of afraid when other women are in power.
Yeah.
And it's a jealousy thing, but it's also a full-on, like, whoa, be careful, like, don't show our power.
Yeah. And then I also think it's also that, like, deeply ingrained, like, I don't know, like inability to trust other women in a way.
Yes.
Like, I don't think that's like a big thing for you or I in our lives necessarily, but but it's like this competition, like, way of looking at things, like this, like, almost like lack mental, like, fear, like, for both of us. I think that was happening for both of us then.
Yes.
And then also I just want to say that it's really funny how tables can have turned, because I feel like if Paige then were to come now, you would not think that was powerful, because we've learned, true though, right? Like, we've learned so much about what's actually going on there, and that it's actually while there's cleaning being done, technically, it's like you're just not actually protecting your own space, kind of thing. So
I would still think you're powerful. I would just be like, oh, she's new, because we were.
Right, yes.
And I still think you're incredibly powerful, but we're learning.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, it's a weird mix of untamed and tamed, which I think is, again, brings us back to your ceremony on Wednesday, where it's like, you know when to be untamed and unleash it. Yeah. And it's like, this has to come out, boom, and then done. Yeah. No mess, no fuss, like, just do what needs to be done and don't make a big deal out of it. And I think, again, we are literally, like, on parallel paths, because it's funny looking back. We're like, oh, we've learned kind of the same lessons from each other. Yes. Just in different ways.
Literally. We've uncovered two, like, just now. I mean, it's so incredible. Cool. It really is. It really is, like, so beautiful. I just feel like we met at the exact right time. Like I said, it's like we are on different paths, but they're going the same direction, you know? And a lot of times it's the same path. I mean, it's like...
a lot of times it's exactly the same path. Like right now, when we're both at Dreamglade, working with medicines.
Oh, it's just awesome. Like, and I feel so grateful... to have met, like, you, but, like, all the people who are, like, in our lives on the same path, and it feels like same timeline, pretty much. It's like we're all kind of in this, we're here now, we're dedicated, we're working with the plants. It's been a bit, you know, doing that, but we're all still so new, and we're all just learning together and figuring out our paths together and what it's going to look like, and it's just like, it's just awesome to have that support around, and to have those mirrors around, and like those people to just say the one lines to you that, like, opens up all those portals and changes everything. It's really awesome. Yeah,
it is. I feel it's kind of crazy, because part of me still feels like I'm in a dream world where I'm saying all this stuff and I believe it, but it's also like, wow, this is crazy. Like, my analytical mind is still there being like, what? Yeah. But the rest of me is like, no, this is how life goes now, because you're just in the flow, and your actions are aligned with your words, and you're just, like, trusting. And I've always told people, like, if if you work on yourself, your vibration changes, and then you'll call in the people who match that vibration.
Yep.
But I didn't actually believe it.
But it's happening.
But it literally is happening.
I mean, I kind of had that same thought process where I was like, wow, like, you know, there have been other times in life where I feel like, you know, you move to a new city or whatever it is, and you're kind of like, okay, I gotta make friends. I feel like, I don't know, ever since I've been down here, it's like, there's just the right people around when I need them, you know?
Yes.
It's incredible. Yeah.
And sometimes it almost felt too good to be true, like when Drew, like, basically told me that we were going to be friends before we met. And then when we met, like, I immediately liked you.
With me, yes.
With you.
Yeah, I mean, he knows. And Drew told me the same, connecting with Des.
Yes.
Like, he just knows.
And it almost felt too good to be true, because I'm like, all of a sudden, I choose to go on the path of my higher self, let's call it, and everything people have been telling me would happen, happened.
Yep.
And it's almost like, wait, really? This is happening this quickly? Like, right away.
Yeah.
Like, right away, Des was the first group that came to Dreamglade, and she was sitting on the rocking chairs, like, and shout out to Des, we love you so much, but she's sitting, she's sitting on the rocking chairs with me, and God, that woman is so wise too, just like you, but she's sitting on the rocking chairs, and she's just like, I don't think this is going to be the last time we'll see each other.
Oh,
and
I can hear your voice coming through.
And in my head, I'm thinking a couple things, which is one, I totally agree with her. Like, I love this girl. I, like, just immediately. But also, the analytical part of my brain is like, I bet I'll feel this way about a lot of Dreamglade guests. And I bet, like, who knows? That just feels very romantic and whatever. But then fast forward to now, where it's been years, and we're, like, I consider Des one of my really good friends now.
Absolutely.
And same thing happened with you, where I was just like, it almost feels too good to be true, where these things have just plopped into your lap, like, oh, here you go. Like, this person is going through the exact same thing as you, and you can talk about things really honestly, and, like, in a way that I've never, I guess I've always had before, at a very not as deep level, where I've always had amazing friends. Yeah. Really fucking amazing people in my life. Like, I'm so blessed, but it just keeps getting better. Yeah. And as I get more aligned with me, then all these amazing people are coming in who also love themselves and, like, see me. Yeah. And I see them, and it's just, like, it's like, whoa, this is really, really cool.
And it's amazing, too, because even just in, like, the conversations that we have here, you and I, or Drew, or Ben, or whatever, I feel like I've had a few times where I just, like, sit in those conversations and I'm like, I just love this so much, because it's like, we're giggling, we're getting deep, we're laughing, like, there's just, like, it's like, these are the conversations I just want to be in all the time. Like, these are my people. Like, I just feel like, yes, this is how I want to be talking, how I want to be communicating, who I want to talk to. Like, it's just awesome. It's just the best.
Yeah. So true. And what a life to just be able to be here and be talking about all the stuff that we're actually interested in and all the stuff we're learning about. And, like, it's just, like I said, it constantly feels like almost too good to be true. But I hear Dreamglade guests say this all the time, where they're like, I've started to feel really joyous, and then I freaked out because it's like, well, when's the shoe gonna drop? Yeah. And I realized I haven't felt like that in a long time. I used to feel like that, which Brene Brown calls it foreboding joy. Yeah. But it's like, joy can be really vulnerable emotion, but I think once you almost get into that momentum, it's just like, that is your, like, I used to say when I had depression, my baseline, I was trying to explain to people what depression was. I'm like, your baseline's here, mine's low, like mine's down here. Yeah. And now my baseline is, like, high. Yeah. I feel that my baseline is, like, really fucking high, and of course I have bad days, but it's like, now I don't have this feeling of when's the other shoe gonna drop. I'm just like, this is just gonna keep getting better. Yeah. Like, now we're just in this, and the momentum is going. Ain't nothing that can stop it.
It's so true. And I also wanted to just say, I think a lot of that is because of how much time you spend in the present moment. And when I say you, I am specifically talking about you, because I think just, like, life in the jungle and life at this pace and life here, it's like, I watch you, and it's so much of your life is literally just being in the present moment, just having these conversations, just cooking, just eating these nice meals, like, just being around people or relaxing. Like, I just think that does wonders for keeping any of those non-essential anxieties like at bay, you know, and allowing for that joy to come through. And it's like an inspiration for me, because I think the only thing that's keeping me from that is like, and we had the whole conversation about this last time, but it's just like being online too much, using my phone too much, like just doing things that take me out of the present moment, basically. But I also wanted to say, and I'm not totally sure how to phrase this, but it's something I've been experiencing also and observing you in this time, which is a lot of the same thing. It's like I've just your transformation, but I just feel, oh God, I don't even know how to put it into words really. I just feel like just about your power and your wisdom. It's like I just feel like it's gotten so deeply embedded in you. And yeah, I just want you to know, like I like see it and I feel it, but I don't know how to explain it. It's like I just recognize like how much further you are now than you've like ever been. And where I'm like, oh wow, like this is gonna seem in a negative way, but it's like you know things I don't, and just in the sense that like you have like this wisdom about you, like I just feel it, you know. And
wow.
Yeah, and I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. I'll figure out a way to to like fully describe it better, but just like watching you in ceremony, watching what you say, watching what you don't say, watching what you put out there, how you interact with guests, when you don't interact with guests, like just like the whole thing. I'm just like, wow, she's got like the I don't know, it's like this like little blue flame. Oh my God, wait,
Blue?
wait, that's the lighthouse thing.
Oh,
wow, I didn't even realize that. But we were talking about your lighthouse abilities and how we were thinking about it as like this huge, shiny, bright, but then you started to think about it as like, no, it's just the candle that stays,
in the
wow,
darkness.
that's funny, because I think I actually do
see me as a lighthouse.
That. Yeah.
I thank you so much. It's funny, I definitely don't think of myself as wise, but I think of, I mean, occasionally something wise pops out of my mouth, but like I feel like the difference.
That's like a Drew comment.
that did come from Drew. I felt it. Because that's actually how I feel, though. It's like once in a while, like accidentally something will come out that's wise, but most of the time it's because dude, this is so cheesy. And I said it to you the other day, but I literally feel like, and I hate that I'm about to say this because I heard this other woman say this.
We're pretty cheesy.
Like, we're just cheesy.
We're just cheesy. A lot of cheese in this podcast.
I don't like that I'm kind of stealing this other woman's line because I like didn't resonate with her, but this is actually just truly how I feel, is that we become women.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like, again, I heard this woman say this. I hated when she said it, so whatever. I'm reclaiming it as my own because it's actually my truth, is that I feel like, and I see this in you too, where I feel like we've become women.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of some of the stuff you're describing, I'm like, I've moved from the maiden archetype, which is like so spontaneous and fun and like, I don't know, just like, who cares? And I loved that part of me, and I still have that part of me. But I've fully moved into like the next phase, which I don't even want to call it like mother or wild woman or whatever. Like I've just moved on past the maiden into something like, I just want to call it woman, because it's just like, I finally almost feel okay with that word. Like I don't love that word, but it's just like, wow, I feel like I've stepped into being a woman, which is like all the stuff you said, knowing when to talk and when not to, and having patience. And having compassion and not needing to prove myself and not having to perform and not needing everyone to like me. Like all that stuff was maiden stuff.
Yep.
And of course that's still kind of in me somewhere, but mostly now I literally feel like I've become a woman from all this stuff. Yeah. And thank you for recognizing that. And obviously see the exact same thing in you. And just hearing you talk about your experience Wednesday night, you being in your own energy, watching you walk across the Maloka, like, as this tall, empowered, powerful, like, woman, just so cool to be like, this is my friend Paige, and we've watched each other grow up in the span of 2 years.
Yeah. It's just really, really beautiful. Like, and I felt that so much this week. I felt such a difference from the last time I was here, all that processing, that excavating, that just really shedding layers, and then coming here this time and just my experience with the medicine, my experience with myself, like the way that ayahuasca's talking to me and treating me, it's a little bit more like a peer almost than like this little girl who's like, we've got to get rid of this, we got to get rid of that, you got to deal with this, you got to deal with that. It's just kind of like, here's the last few things, you know, just really let go, just really, like, you know, stop the judgment, stop the critical thinking, and then here's your path, you know. It's and I feel that so much, and I feel like this opened up this trip. They're all so special, but this one is building the new, you know, and then the other ones have really been tearing down the old, and that's like exciting, man. It's like really a beautiful place to be.
Really amazing. Really, really amazing. Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, sometimes I hate podcasts when people are just like blowing smoke up each other's asses the whole time, and I'm like, are we doing that? Maybe. But I also just really believe like every word we're saying, and I also think as we're talking, I'm like, what a beautiful example of like women overcoming this programming and jealousy and triggers to like such an amazing relationship, and the fact that both of us could like kind of step past those things, and again recognize that when you're triggered, I've already had a whole podcast of like, recognize when you're triggered, it's not about them, it's about you, and us both taking ownership and accountability and responsibility and moving through that to become this better version of ourselves so that we could also stay friends. It's just so cool, and I feel like it's really, really amazing. I don't know many people who can do that, like the way that you've done this.
But I also think like sometimes that's the way, and I don't know. It is a funny thing, because I think those are going to be the best relationships in a lot of ways, are the ones that actually trigger you and make you look at yourself deeper. So yeah, while that's uncomfortable and that like existed or exists, like you're both so much better for it, and I think our relationship will continue to be one of those.
Dude, I know for sure, because I still see stuff in you where like it'll trigger me, and not in a way of like, oh, it's Paige being annoying, in a way of like, ooh, that's like something I need to look at about myself that's still insecure, or like it's always a mirror. Yeah. And you're such a mirror for me where I still feel like we're the same person.
Yeah. I do too.
Like I still feel
it's really wild. Like I don't remember what ceremony this was, but I had one ceremony where I think it was the one where I was in, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like, I don't know, there's just something so like similar that I'm like, I'm like, Britt, Paige, like we're separate entities, of course, but I don't know, there was just something where it was like, yeah, I don't know, like you're part of this. It's like, I can't even explain it. I just,
yes,
one of those things. But
I love your point though. I think that those are the relationships that if you can get past those triggers, those are so fruitful. And I look at me and my sister where it's like, damn, we
shout out Carly.
Shout out Carly. Also fucking love you. It's just like we literally hated each other. And I mean, trigger is the understatement of the year. Like it was like I was horrible to her, and you don't have to go into all that.
Can I smoke a bacho?
Yeah, of course.
That may be a whole nother
That's a whole other episode. But like I mean, the relationships that I'm in now with friends and family and everything, they're amazing because we've gone through all this stuff and looked at our stuff, not in spite of it, not because we've looked the other way. Like, that's why they're so deep and rich. Yeah. And, just got to applaud ourselves and all the people out there doing that, because it's hard work. It's hard work to look at your own shit And it's hard work to look at the stuff about yourself that you don't like. And I think it's hard, again, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but it's like about your critical inner voice.
Yeah, please.
And I think that also hurts me to hear for two reasons. One, because I see you as this like amazing woman, and I'm like, that's really sad that she has such a critical voice analyzing everything she does all the time. But it's also really sad because like I know what that feels like, and it's still there. It's not ever going to fully go away probably. I just have to like learn to love that.
Yep.
And I haven't fully gotten there yet. Like I think I've learned to love a lot of aspects of myself. But the harsh, like, bitchy, judgy voice is probably the most sticky one right now. And again, like, as we're such mirrors for each other, hearing you say that. And sorry, you haven't even shared this ceremony yet, but maybe we should go into your second ceremony now.
we should, because I think it's really important. Because I think so many people, but especially women, like, have this. So in my last ceremony, the ceremony last night, was incredibly profound. Again, it's like I started to feel the medicine pretty much right away, and I was sitting on my mat and I started to feel like there was somebody like really creepy right next to me. And sometimes that happens in ayahuasca ceremony. It's like you never know who's around, and I was just feeling this person like right next to me, and I like couldn't like figure out what it was or who it was. And then I started to feel like all these people just like I was just being watched, and I have felt like that through the other ceremony too, a little bit, like just this feeling of like, I'm just always being watched. And it was still like not like super intense, but I was just kind of being aware of these things. So I was a little creeped out. So I just got up and went to the bathroom. I was like, just maybe move the scenery or something. And actually Britt walked me back to my bed. And I was telling her I was feeling the medicine strong. And I almost told you that I was like, there was someone creepy, but whatever. I figured hopefully it's not there when I get back. I get back, it's still there. And the medicine, I start to go into the medicine a little deeper. And I just feel like I'm being watched by so many people. And as the trip kind of continues, I almost like trip over myself. I don't know, it was like kind of like in a room or something, and I almost like trip, and then I realized that tripping over myself is the same person that's in the corner just creeping me out and watching me. And as I realized it's me, all of a sudden the room fills up with just like hundreds of me, and I'm just staring at myself. And then I kind of become my father, and my father is just everywhere, and he's just like peering down at me, and it's just like I've got like hundreds of them just peering down at me, like in this judgment and this criticalness, and like the what are you doing, and this is wrong, and like you're gonna get caught, and like all like just this incredible critique of every single thing. And it was really intense. And I sat there for a second in it. And then I had this thing where Bobansana, who's the beautiful, beautiful plant that I've been dieting while I've been here, came as like a fairy into my ear and was like, I can help you. And then things started to shift a little bit. And after Bobansana came, ayahuasca started to make me feel really light, like as if I had lost like 20 pounds. And I was like feeling myself. I was like, oh my God, this feels amazing to not have that weight on me. It's also crazy how ayahuasca can do that, but it literally did. It like just took the weight off. And then back to the thing in the corner, it was that, that weight. And it showed me that weight next to me in the corner, and it showed me that weight and how it's sitting on me. And it basically showed me that that critical voice in my head is what I'm carrying around with me. That like from my childhood father's voice is this extra weight that I've been carrying around. And it was just an incredibly profound experience and vision. And there was also something about feeling into that new body without that weight that made me feel so much like a woman, and so much of the the criticalness that I put on myself, like I think most women do, is surrounded by my body. You know, almost every single thing and every single critical thought, it somehow circles back to how I feel about myself and my body. Yeah.
Oh, I just gotta pause there because I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
It's so, there almost aren't words. I mean, you put it so well, and it's just like, that's a huge thing I've seen time and time again. It doesn't matter what you look like.
Yep.
It literally does not matter what size you are, like how attractive you are. I mean, every single woman I know, have ever known, has dealt with this, and it's so deeply ingrained. And it's so interestingly correlated with all the other stuff we're talking about, where it's like, once you become to love yourself and your body, like everything else just comes from that.
Yes.
Because if you have this like nitpicky critique of your body all the time and what you're eating and other people's bodies, it's just like such a it's literally like a living nightmare.
Yeah.
It's horrible
because it becomes all consuming. And then I noticed, like, since that ceremony, which obviously was just last night, but I you know, in like taking the picture today, like I had this thing where I was like sucking my stomach in while taking the picture, and then I just was like, no, like I'm just not doing that anymore. Like, I feel like the plants are basically telling me, use the plants, like we'll help you, and like the weight will come off. Like it's basically like Drew was saying, like it's already done. The weight's like already off. And again, I almost don't like that the two things were so correlated, but it's just the reality of what's going on, you know. And I think it was showing me, like, I've been putting so much pressure on myself the last year and a half or whatever, 2 years, about this weight gain all the time. I just like want to get it off my body, and I think I needed to see that it's like, that's what it is. It's that criticalness that almost like stops you in your tracks from actually being able to be healthy, you know. And I think Bobinsana was coming in and kind of saying, like, I can relax your nervous system, I can calm you down, I can give you self-love, like I like the, you know, the weight will come off, like it's, you know.
This is so deep, and it relates to what we were talking about earlier, but it's just like, what I've always noticed in my life is I've gone into these phases where I've gotten really focused on my weight and will do these like fad diets or something, but then I inherently just hate them, so I just stop. And I notice the funniest thing I've always known this consciously, where when I'm dieting or really focused on losing weight, it won't come off, or I can lose weight for a second, and then it all comes back on when I binge eat the next week because I'm like, sugar. And I just realized, like, I've always known this. When I'm not focusing on it, I'm fine. It's when I'm focusing on it that it's a problem. And it's literally relates to what we were talking about at the beginning, which is stop trying to do. Just be.
Yes, exactly.
Stop trying.
Exactly.
Just stop. Just fucking stop criticizing yourself.
And also, I just feel a lot of the messages that I've been getting of late are about calming your nervous system and like understanding, and it's all related, right? It's like that critical voice, you know, your thoughts lead to feelings, which can change your hormones and change your nervous system and everything, right? So it's like, it really starts with those critical thoughts. And just being able to like understand that when those start to come, your nervous system is probably spiking a little bit, right? So like, in whatever way you can, just try and calm. Like, for some reason, the thing that's been getting me lately is just like, this is kind of what I say to myself, like, calm. I know that's...
I wish you could see Paige right now, because she's got her hands in her heart, and it's this whole thing with her hands. But yes, I'm sure you can feel it through the phone.
Just like the self-soothing of just breathe. Like,
just breathe.
You know, and I think, my nervous system has just been so wrecked from, you know, New York City for 7 years, and just so many things. And yeah, it's kind of all circles back to the same thing, which is just being, you know, and just relaxing into like that. There's nothing to do but, like, I don't know, be present with yourself. Like that's what's going to move things and shift things and give things love. And
yes.
Yeah. So that was an incredible part of the journey. And I'd love to share the next part of the journey.
Go for it.
Which, so that almost felt like the final shedding. It was almost like we still got to just get rid of that. And then we're going to build the new. So my intention for the ceremony was really focused around the plants and my work with the plants and what does that look like? You know, I know in some ways what that looks like, but I just wanted more clarity because I'm feeling of late just so drawn to learn more about herbalism and the jungle plants. And so that was my big intention, you know, kind of show me the way, or how am I working with you? So after that experience with the critical thinking, and I went back into the intention, kind of asking the medicine, okay, like, so I understand that, how am I going to be working with the plants? And there's Ben, who I believe the podcast listeners know.
Yes, I think, yeah. I'll have published an episode with him at this point.
Who's a wonderful human. And I, you know, just met him this time around, but he just immediately extended me like really genuine, beautiful friendship. And I don't even think I was truly aware of how much I actually really needed him and his presence here. But the plants just pointed me to Ben. That's it. Like, how do I work with the plants? Ben. And I just was like, it was funny because I was actually sitting next to him during the ceremony, and I'm like, right, okay. And Ben's amazing. He does his own like incredible work with the plants. He does like a lot of really beautiful diets. And Ben is also a writer. And a lot of the conversations me and him have had were about my past with writing and my relationship with writing and just writing in general and his. And after a breathwork ceremony, I kind of randomly said to him, writing has always been really cathartic for me. And when I said it, I was like, where did that go? It literally just, I was like, okay. And he was kind of like, tell me more. And we got into a whole beautiful conversation. But after I said that, I was like, okay, I guess that wanted to come out. So I'm turning to Ben, thinking about the plants, and that line came up in my head. And I go, oh, writing? I don't know if I said this, but Ben is a writer. Ben is a ghostwriter and a novelist, and so I think he kind of opens that up for me, that identity that I've always had since I was a little girl as a writer. And I said, I thought, writing? And the moment I thought that, I was just shown this like really beautiful like business page website thing with just like all these photos on it, all these like film photos of plants, and at the top of the page just read my dieta Paige, my name. And I just was like, oh my God, like, yeah, that's perfect. Like, oh, you want me to share you. I also got that so much in the first summer that they were like, we're going to be using you to like spread ourselves. Like, it's not really about you as much as like, we're just going to be working through you. So I kind of got the message that was that they wanted to be shared. But then they showed me this, and it was just all week I've been pondering about, I want to like, you know, work with the plants. I want to quit this job. I want to build a business, like all of these things that I'm kind of been like putting out there. They'll figure itself out, and then all of a sudden it was just given to me. And from that moment, I just started to get all of these downloads and ideas of what I need to be writing about, and what I can put out there, and how it will look, and how successful it can be, and how much energy I can pour into it, and how serious I can take it. And yeah, that it was like, that's the thing. It was like, this is your platform. Like, you have to build this, and it's gonna, you know, maybe eventually you'll start making things and selling things, but ultimately it's like, you need to just start sharing your experience with the plants and your study with the plants. And so, God, that was a gift I could never repay. I mean, I've never gotten something like that from ayahuasca. For me, it's only really been, what to work on, I've never been given something in that way, where it didn't feel like that came from me, my Dieta page, as much as I love the pun on the same page, like
Full circle.
did not feel like it came from me at all. And so that was really fucking awesome, and I was just completely stoked, like, yeah.
I love that so much, and I love it. It goes back to something Ben said, of course, like earlier this week maybe, where he's like, sometimes, or maybe always, like, things will just work out the way that you want them to be. And it goes back to you saying how, like, this is almost ineffable for me, but it's just the way that you're talking about yourself, and how, like, you're like, of course I love Paige because I built this house. And it's like, but you, like, as we're becoming more and more ourselves, it's like, of course you like that because these are the things you like.
Yes.
And, like, you're just embodying them. And you realize, like, when you start to realize, I can just live this life that I want to live. Like, I can follow the breadcrumbs, and, like, this is what I actually can do. This is what the universe will support me in doing. And it's not this whole, like, oh, what if I, maybe have this, like, small hobby on this. It's like, no, we're fully going for it. And you can do exactly what you want. And what if it's all exactly how you want it to be?
Yes.
And I'm still getting goosebumps with this, which I call truth bumps, because it's just like, it's resonating so true. It's just like, I really, really have started to believe and feel and trust that, like, life can be exactly how we want it. And again, like, it's almost a paradox because we're not in control. We're not controlling this, but we're just allowing the help as this creativity stuff, like, comes through us.
Yes.
And it can be exactly what you want it to look like. Like, it's so beautiful that you have this web page about, like, Paige and your plants, and, like, it combines all your hobbies with, like, filming and photography and herbalism. I mean, it's just amazing. It's really amazing. And I keep going back to Ben's thing about, like, what if it's just exactly how you want it to be? Like, stop making it so complicated. Just it can be you. It can be the expression of you as, like, physically manifested on this planet. And, like, that's what we need everyone to fucking do.
And be more of yourself and more of that creative energy. I mean, it's I just lost my train of thought for a second, but also, it, like, I totally agree, and I feel like I've really, really been shown that. I've really been shown, like, I don't have anything to worry about. Like, right now, like, the jobs, the little things, right? The job stuff, the stuff that, like, pragmatically has to actually be figured out. I'm kind of like, it will just figure itself out. Like, here's the steps that I need to take. I need to listen to the medicine, and I need to build something on my own, and I need to put that energy into it. And it's like, it's so exciting. And then the other thing too is, like, it makes so much sense. Like, my grandmother then came through, and my grandmother, I was always, like, a creative person, but I was never, like, an artist. Like, I don't know, like, I was always creative in ways, but, I guess I was a writer and stuff, but I never really thought of myself as, like, a super creative person, until I got a little older. But my grandmother came through, and my grandmother was insanely creative. I mean, she, like, you name it, she was into it, and she did it. She did, like, built her own furniture. She just was, like, a painter and an artist, and she sewed, and she was an amazing cook, and she just, like, everything she drew, I mean, everything she did was art, and she was actually also an astrologer, and she came through in that ceremony, and she was like, yeah, duh, like, you're my granddaughter, like, you are, like, like this, almost like what you're going to be creating is, like, all the stuff that, like, I've always loved too, and it's just like, of course it's in you, like, like, duh, like, that's who you are. And I never really thought of it that way, and it kind of just backs up and gives me more momentum, where I'm like, oh right, that's just in me. Like, I just, like, I don't need to, like, hold back or feel like that imposter syndrome, or feel like I can't do this, or that, like, I'm just not creative, or I'm just not that good of a photographer, or this isn't perfect, and, like, all of that bullshit. It's like, no, like, my grandmother never, I mean, she just made things to make things, and it just was what it was.
Yes.
And so it's that that critical thought of like, just get that out of here, because that's just, it just is like, that's just who you are. Like, just put out that creative energy that's inside of you, me, Paige. And it's a unique creative energy. It's just mine. Like, we all have our own unique stamp and our own unique essence. And like, it was just kind of that feeling of like, yeah, put that essence out.
Yes.
You know, and here's what it will look like, and it can grow so big, and like, yeah, it just was the coolest thing ever. Yeah.
It's so beautiful too, to just see this happening for you and be like, this is what needs to happen. Like,
yeah.
And if imagine if everybody started doing this, where we just like, oh, what if what the world needed was just me being me, and me doing exactly what I want to do, and without all the judgment and all of the critical voices and all the reasons why not, and worrying about the how. It's like, what if you just did what you wanted to do, and it was that simple?
Yeah.
And the rest will figure itself out.
Yeah.
And this is, again, just like basic spiritual law of attraction, all this stuff that everyone has learned about.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about the how. Just figure out like what you want, how you want to feel, and then the how is going to figure out itself. Yeah. Of course, you need to take steps.
Yes. Like, you do need to work,
obviously.
I think. But I don't think, I don't know. I've always in the past, like if an idea came to me, nothing that ever felt as like spot on as this, and that I had as much kind of immediate momentum behind a little bit, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take this seriously. I'm gonna, but if ever an idea came, I just feel like I would psych myself out about the work that it would take to actually build it, or to actually do it. And so what ends up happening, it's like I do it like half-assed, you know, and I can't stand that. I'm like a very all or nothing person, and I feel like even with where I've been in my breathwork journey, like I've put myself out there. I have some amazing, incredible clients, but I always feel like I'm not like I just haven't actually introduced myself as like a breathwork instructor. Like, I haven't actually like put that out like in full force like it needs to be. It's just kind of been like I've just been dipping my toe, and then I get the momentum again, and I dip my toe again, and all this stuff. And so that's just really being honest. And then I look back, and it's been, you know, I started my certification the end of last September, so it's like coming up on a year, and I'm like, damn, it's been a year, and I feel like I haven't, like, you know, I was thinking it would be this big, but I have not put that, you know, a lot of my energy has been in the plant stuff too, but and I don't say that to be hard on myself. It's just one of those things where, you can get in your own head about psyching yourself out, that it has to be this big to do. And I don't know, I just feel like you have to use your energy properly, you know?
Yes.
And figure out what that hard work looks like, and not create too much the mental.
Yes. And that's like, honestly, one reason I started the podcast was just to prove to myself that I could do something without needing it to be perfect. Yeah. Because it's really kept me back in life so much. It's a real thing, but it's just like, and again, all related to that critical voice, but it's just, I feel like in the past, I should say, because it's not true anymore, but in the past, I never really fully gave myself to things because I was scared of not being perfect.
Yeah.
And I needed everything I put out to be perfect because, again, all this pulling the threads, like plant medicine work, it's like, because of this deep feeling of me not being worthy, deep down, I'm not, like, the programming was, you know, I'm inadequate, I'm not worthy, I need to perform to be loved. Like, that's one of my personal biggest roots, which I know it is for a lot of people, is like inadequacy. And when I realized that, I was like, well, what you gonna do about that, Brittany? Like, what you can do is just start putting yourself out there and not worry about, like, I love when I get praise, obviously it's amazing, but I don't need it. And if a bunch of people are super critical of me, it truly won't affect me, unless of course it's like people I respect and they're giving me feedback. I love that, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's like, I don't need it to be perfect.
Yes.
Like, I'm just putting myself out there and having fun and, like, hopefully inspiring other people to do the same. But I feel like looking at you, I'm like, you're inspiring me to do the same. Like, if all of us just start doing this, it's all inspiring. It's like, what if we just do what we want? What if we just do it? Like, life can be so beautiful. Such a freaking miracle.
It is. Also, I feel like, oh my gosh, I haven't slept, guys, so I keep like,
you're
thinking
doing great.
No, but really cool thought experiment, right? Like what you just said, where it's like, I'm excited to start implementing this, because I think this is going to be a big aspect of like killing that critical voice, which is like putting stuff out there and then just not looking, not thinking, not caring, just wiping my hands clean of it. And then I also think like when you like put yourself out there in a really honest way, where it's like, it's really you, it's just genuine, like I almost feel like that fear shrinks a little bit, right? Because then you're just like, well, if they have whatever, it's like, then it's just me. Like, I think, I mean, obviously we went through this in the last conversation, but all the filters on Instagram, and I don't even necessarily mean like the actual filters, but like the filter through which people show us their lives and who they are. Like 99% of the time, it's all bullshit, right? So it's like, if they don't like that, if they don't like somebody who's putting that mask on, then maybe that's hurtful because they're trying so hard for that person to like them with that mask on. And it's like, well, if they don't even like that with the mask on, then I gotta find another mask, or I gotta do another thing. But like, if you just come genuinely, honestly, you and who you are, it's like, well, take it or leave it.
Exactly.
Like, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna at this point wear any mask for anybody. And I really feel like right now, at this point, after this experience, not only would I not be bothered if somebody makes a weird comment or doesn't like something or just like doesn't respond, I feel like I would think, okay, that's triggering for them.
Yeah.
I mean, not to be, maybe that's a little obnoxious,
no, it's
but like,
true.
it's like,
dude, it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true, because that's the reason I think you're thinking that is because that's how we are living our lives. And that's just a helpful way to live your life and to view the world, because it's so not helpful to view yourself as a victim and everyone who's triggering you is the problem. How is that going to help you in life? It's not. It's like Drew and I always talk about this, where if someone comes into Dreamglade and thinks that they're the problem, awesome. Like, we can work with that because they're onto something. And it's not that they're a problem, but it's just that the way that they're viewing the world might be a problem for them. And like, when you view everyone else as the problem, that's a little tougher to fix.
Yeah.
Because you're not taking any accountability, you're not taking any responsibility. And what you just said is like, that's it. And even saying that on a podcast is like, ooh, does that sound a little bit like...
Right, yeah.
But it's like, who cares? Because it's true. If people are triggered, it's your own shit.
Yeah,
and we live by that.
Yes.
And like, just like we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, where we triggered each other, and instead of being like, well, fuck Paige, I'm not going to talk to her anymore because she triggers me.
I knew it was me. I knew it wasn't you. Like, it was like so obvious. It was like, well, she's fine, like she's happy and living her life, like what's your deal?
And that's when you start really living in that. It's like, if I'm triggered, and I've talked about this on a different podcast episode I recorded by myself, but it's like so incredibly life-changing and such a simple thing that's really, really difficult at the beginning, but gets easier as you go. Like at the beginning, when I realized that everyone triggering me was triggering unhealed parts of myself, that was tough, because I wanted to blame them. I wanted to be like, well, fuck that person. They're a bitch. They're annoying. Like, couldn't possibly be me. Yeah. But when you really look at it, couldn't be me. I'm perfect, but also like deeply unhappy. It's just so funny when you really start to look at yourself. Oh, yeah. And be like, it's so empowering. It's hard to explain the importance of that, because it's just, now I'm realizing too, from the other perspective, if someone's triggered by me, again, like, it's worth looking at just to, maybe I can have some room for improvement, but mostly I don't take it personally. Yeah. Because it's their own triggers that they could use to work on themselves. Yeah. That's life-changing shit right there. Like,
it is life-changing shit. And I think also, like, I mean, just thinking back to when I was triggered by you, and like really looking back at that time in my life, like I was so unhappy. I had so much to change in my life, and I did, I mean, it took a while, but like I changed my whole life. But yeah, I mean, I think it was, yeah, it just was as if you were in this light down here, and like you could have this life.
Mm-hmm.
And there I was in my old life still, and just, you know, like knowing how much work was ahead and how much I needed to do to actually get down here, and so that's uncomfortable. But yeah, so I mean, even just reflecting on that and understanding, like, okay, so if I am really being triggered by something, like, what's going on with me? You know, I mean, if you're happy, you're living your truth, you're living your like life's purpose, or at least you're like on the right path. I just don't see things bothering you as much, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I know you talked about this in your last podcast episode, but it's like the trigger is the medicine.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Oh God, it's so true.
Yeah.
And it's so empowering because it gives you the power back.
Yeah. Instead
of giving all these people who trigger you the power. That's like something that really disturbs me about our society, where it's like trigger warning, like God forbid and I'm like, life is triggering.
Yeah.
And what do you want to do? Do you want to build, the Uncharted Soul talks about this, do you want to build walls around your thorn? Like if you have a thorn in your side and something's going to like, let's touch it and trigger you and make you hurt, do you want to just take out the thorn, or do you want to build this whole contraption around the thorn to like protect it, and then you won't be able to touch anybody?
God.
And like, it's just it's an amazing chapter in that book, but it's just like, no, I don't want to go around living with a thorn in my arm. Let's just pull it out. It's going to be painful. There's going to be an open wound. We're going to have to tend to it a little bit lovingly, but just pull out the thorn.
I feel like you must see that so much here. Both, right? People who are ready to pull it out, and then people who are a little bit like I think there was a guest here this time who wasn't quite ready to pull the thorn out.
Yeah.
And and I mean, they will be.
Mhm.
You know,
they will be.
Yeah.
And it takes time, and sometimes they don't even know that there's a thorn in their arm. It's just like, oh, there's pain, but I'm ignoring it.
Yeah.
So everyone in their own time, but that honestly is one of the more empowering things, because man, I used to be triggered all the time, and not just by, you know, anger and jealousy and insecurity, but like like you said, just constantly worried about what people are going to think of me.
Oh God, every little thing.
Every little thing that came out of my mouth, or that I did, or that I said. And I think I was talking to Ben about this last week. I don't know if you're here, but I was saying, like, I used to be, this weird memory popped up in my head the other day, where it kind of made me realize how far I've come, where I just used to, what's the word? Now I'm getting really tired too. It's just like, I used to be like dreading seeing myself in the back of a photo or in a video or something.
Me too.
Like, I was just dreading it. And like, if my face came up, or my voice, oh my God, I hated my voice, or just anything, I'd be like, oh my God, I have a double chin, just immediately. And my ex-boyfriend, Pete, just I remember he said this to me when we were dating. I was like in my 20s. He's like, I noticed the thing about you is like, when you go up to a mirror, the first thing you do is look for a blemish or look for an imperfection.
Oh my God.
And he said that, and I was like, of course. Why wouldn't I? Like, what else would I be looking for? You know, it was so distant from me that I could just look in the mirror and be like, you got frizzy fucking hair, your teeth are getting crooked, you got coca in your teeth, you know, you've got a bunch of zits probably that you can't see, you're oily as fuck, but like, damn, you're beautiful. You know, like, damn, you're living your purpose, you're glowing, you're sweaty, you're in it. And
oh my God, that's amazing.
It's just so funny how I didn't see a different life other than that. I didn't see a different life, and I still look in the mirror and go for my blackheads sometimes. I literally, that's such a metaphor for how I was living my life. It was just nitpicking. And that's why, again, going back to your ceremony, it just triggered something in me where I'm like, I still have a part of me, but mostly I'm sad that other people still have this in them, because it's bullshit. It's not true. It's keeping you from being the best version of yourself. It's lying to you, saying that you need it to be the best version of yourself, when that's not true. To be the best version of yourself, you don't need the critical voice. You're still going to be amazing without it. You're going to be more amazing without it. It's
way
just
more amazing. It's the thing that's holding you back. I mean, like, no question. I think things are going to shift for me now after this, because I think I think it's just very, very clear to me that it's like, I just have to be softer with myself and my nervous system and everything, right? Like, and I think I just like am ready to really do that, right? So I'm excited for almost getting back into my life and seeing what that looks like and making the right decisions and being kind to myself. But I certainly, like, you took a picture of me, Lydia, and Raul, and I had a funny experience with it. Like, I looked at, just that you took a few, I just looked at one of them, and my first was like, oh, it's like hard to like look at myself and see certain things. But I stopped myself and I just looked at it for a second and I was like, damn, I am like so happy in this picture. And I also look like a completely different person from the first time I came back, February 2022. And I have this like picture with Lydia. I look so different. So incredibly different. It's crazy. I mean, just, yeah, I feel like in the first one, it's like I still looked so trapped in my own being, in my own body, and so restricted and constricted and lighter, definitely as if I had some ease, something that was released, some semblance of, I'll get there. But just the difference is crazy. I mean, I look at this other one and I'm like, wow, I'm free. And even if I'm not completely free right now today, it's like
it's been
freedom
done.
Freedom is it. Yeah, it's been done. It's like, freedom is the way, is the whole life path for me. Like,
yes,
I think for us, like,
yes. And it's not like we're I was just talking about this the other day. It's not like we're ever going to be perfect. And, like, even saying that is still something inside of me where it's like, are you sure, Brittany? Are you sure you're not going to be perfect next week? Like, you're really close.
Or, like, that future you in your head that's just like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be the most beautiful, perfect, like, mother and wife, and we're going to live on this, like, it's, and I mean, I totally wholeheartedly believe it's like, that's in the vortex, but at the same time, it's also like, you're not going to be perfect.
You're not going to be perfect. The reason you're going to be so happy is because you've accepted that you're not perfect, and you've loved those parts of you that aren't perfect. And it's still a journey. Like, I have to say this as a disclaimer, because I'm like, we've talked to each other up so much, and I fucking love all of the praise and stuff, but it's like, I'm not perfect. Like, I still have moments where I'm fully embodied in myself, and I look at myself in the mirror and I really love myself, like, fully. But I still have times where I see a picture and I'm like, oh God, like, that's what I look like. And it's just a quick thought that comes in. And I think the difference between then and now is I just don't really care about that thought. Like, the thought comes in and it's honestly not a big deal at all. Like, I just don't pay any attention to it. I'm like, oh, she's still there, like Beatrice. My name for that, like, bitchy voice in my head.
God, that's my niece's name.
Oh, sorry. Well, Bea's like cute, but Beatrice is just a bitch in my head. Sounds exactly like me, but she's hyper.
I love that. But I think that's the work, right?
Yes.
Like, I mean, especially for me, now that this is not a newfound thing, obviously, but I think it's like, it's ready to be released. So, okay, so what does that mean for me? Now, I know we were talking about not doing, but it's more of like just being extra aware and making sure it's like, stop it before it starts,
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't let it get momentum. Don't let this one thought carry you down a dark alleyway.
Exactly. Be very aware that your thoughts turn into your feelings, turn into your life. Yeah. I mean,
wow.
Yeah.
That just kind of, I don't know, this is such a simple concept that we talk about all the time, but that just really clicked in my head. I was like, oh, yeah, that's what Drew's always saying, is that some people, like, our biggest problem is that we just get carried away by one thought.
Yeah.
And I never really understood until we just talked about that, because I'm like, when you put it in a story of a critical voice and looking at a picture of yourself and seeing that you have cellulite on your arm.
Yeah. or just like extra weight, like, that you've been carrying around.
Yes. And then the first thought is, wow, I can't believe, like, I'm walking around with so much cellulite on my body. And then the next thought could be, oh my God, I need to diet. I need to, like, like go into hiding until I lose 10 pounds and no one and it's like that used to be my way of thinking. But now it's like the same thought comes in, but the difference is I don't get carried away with the thought at all. Like I literally, it's awesome to be able to say this because it feels so good and so true that it might be the first time in my life where that doesn't happen. And it's just so nice where I still have this thought, you know, that's why I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm not having these negative thoughts ever. I still have Beatrice. She's still there, but I don't get carried away. I'm just like, oh, that was kind of a nasty thought, you know, and just, that's it. It doesn't have to go anywhere. I don't have to diet. Like I still make up for the Beatrice voice with my really self-soothing thoughts and like my hands on my body and just like powerful love affirmation meditations and mirror. Like I used to tell people the way that I got to self-love, it was not one thing. It was so many, affirmations, mirror gazing, looking at myself, cheerleading myself, like still have to do that all the time. Yeah. Still have to build this, keep this relationship with myself all the freaking time. But it's there. And the critical voice might never go away, but I don't give her the time of day. It's like, she's not important.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's our minds are just so powerful that I feel like to understand day in and day out that we are not our thoughts. I know it's one thing to grasp that concept, but it's really another thing to fight the thoughts when they come in. You know, it's really another thing to stay really on top of what's actually going on and that it's just the mind. And we don't have to listen to it, you know? I mean, I think you let one day go where your thoughts run the show a little bit. The next day it's going to be a little bit harder to stop them, and it just kind of builds momentum in that way. But yeah, so that's why those practices are like, you need them, and you need them as like fail safes. Like you need them as like non-negotiables because especially women, we go through our hormonal cycles. Like,
my God.
Like there are times where that voice is way louder, just because of the progesterone. Like that voice gets so loud. So even just like consciously being aware of that, and maybe, you know, doing some extra self-care on those days, or just laying off the social media on those days, or just doing things that are gonna like help quiet that voice.
Yeah, that might be the ultimate discipline. It's like, is your mind, and I would love to get to I think when I think of perfect, again, it's not even like, it's still somewhere in my being where it's like, we're gonna get to this perfect place. And when I think about perfect place, it's me controlling the thoughts before they even come in. So I don't even have these critical thoughts anymore. Beatrice is quiet. Like she's just like literally quiet. Yeah.
Oh wow, that is funny though, because that like puts a different spin on what perfect means, you know, because it's not that like you have to get there, but it's like you could be there tomorrow. Yeah.
In any moment.
Yeah.
And I think to me it's really hard to grasp that I could control the thoughts that come in. Yeah. Or any of us can, because they seem so almost intrusive sometimes. Like, you know, that example with the picture where it's like, where did that come from? But it's like, you can be aware in that split second before you have the thought, the part of you that doesn't use words can help that thought from even coming in the first place. But again, this is like, we're talking like probably years down the road for me of meditation practices and like ashrams and who knows what else. But I really feel like it's possible because people have done it, and I don't need Beatrice. Like, I don't think Beatrice is helping me in any way. Yeah. I don't think she's serving me. I mean, maybe she probably is right now because she's existing, so she must be serving.
Right. Like she's serving some part of you that's still facing those insecurities. And
reminding me to like what other people are going through, because I sometimes think if I was quote unquote perfect and never feeling comfortable emotions and stopping these thoughts before they come in, how could I relate to people? Yeah. Where's the empathy? Like I got that from ayahuasca when I had this like crazy fear experience. I forget if we talked about this before, but I just realized like she brought me this fear to remind me of what it feels like, because I had forgotten, which is a beautiful thing.
Oh, you did tell me,
It's a beautiful thing that I forgot. because I used to live with an undercurrent of anxiety, and I literally forgot what that felt like. But having it return was very humbling, because it's like, look, at any point, this could come back. And other people are feeling this fear all the time. So don't for one second think you're better than anyone, or that you're like above other people. It's like, no, this is fear, and it is real for everyone who's feeling it. So don't judge, have compassion, have empathy. And
I had an experience in a breathwork session, and I was next to somebody, and I don't know what was going on necessarily, but I felt they were bringing out a lot in me of this world, a lot of the darkness in this world, a lot of the wars in this world, a lot of the stuff that I felt I kind of escaped from. Not that I escaped from war in general, but I spent a lot of years of my life covering conflict zones, and it was my whole life, for years, and it was dark, and I had to just compartmentalize so much so that I didn't let my emotions come into play. I had to learn how to do that. And then it's like, then it's just become so normal, these horrific stories of the world, what's actually going on. And I'm sitting next to this person, and we're breathing together, and the energy in the space was just circulating, and it was just palpable. And it was so intense, because I just felt like this is home. This is the world. Like, you can't escape from it. There is no escape from it. Like, that darkness, that stuff, like, it always exists. And you still have to face it in some ways. Maybe I don't necessarily have to face, exposing myself to a lot of those stories or what's going on there, but just this acknowledgement that of the heaviness that so many people carry, and that you can run into them at any time. Like, for me, this person was a big representation of home, of New York, and it just was so heavy for me, because it just was like all of the problems that I've seen, and my loved ones, and drug use, and conflict zones, and poverty, and abuse, and just the heaviest of energies. And I don't know, it just smacked me so dead in the face. That was like, this will always exist, because it just does. Like, you can't run from it, and you're always going to come into contact with people who are holding that. And since you know it, and you have certain experiences of it, it's like, you can't escape it. You can't let that go, simply because, like you said, it's like, you have to almost hold that still for the others,
Yes.
I hope that made sense. I feel like that was kind of
it made sense to me, because I love talking about all the love and light stuff, but it's also like, we say this all the time, and a lot of people say this all the time, but I really, really get it now. You can't, the darker you go, the more capacity you have to hold the light. Yeah. And the reason I feel so embodied and awesome now is because I've gone into the darkness, and not just my own darkness, I fucking excavated the shit out of my own psyche for the last 8 years, but more so than feeling, like you said, the heaviness of this world, just seeing guest after guest come in, seeing the stuff they've gone through, being grateful for my own life because of that, but also really fucking feeling their pain. Yeah. And there's empathy, and then there's medicine empathy. Yeah. And there's empathy where you can really feel for someone, but when you're on medicine, you can literally feel their pain. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, how could you ever judge somebody? I really feel like it's hard for me to judge someone. That's one reason I love people so much now, is because it's like I've seen so many people come in who might be easy to judge at first glance, but when you really get to sit and talk with people for a while and see what they're going through, it makes sense why they're that way.
Yeah.
Like, their behaviors make sense, and you feel their pain, man. It's just like the pain is there.
Yeah.
And it's deep and it's heavy, and yeah, like you said, it's a part of this planet, and it's important that we recognize it and recognize that every person is walking around with stuff that we can't see at first glance.
Yeah.
They all have a story, and they're all doing their fucking best.
Yeah.
Like, we all are. We're doing the best with what we have in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think with this work, like, there is a little piece of this empathy that you carry with you. So when you come into contact with those people, it may not be the kind of medicine empathy where you feel it so strongly, but it's like, pain, it's like, I don't know, I think you can relate to this, but it's like, there's just this feeling of you're in the presence of pain.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes me cry.
Yeah.
Literally just sitting with someone in pain, even if they don't even realize that they're feeling pain, makes me cry. And it's so palpable.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful that these people are, like, everyone is still just doing their best. Like, we're just trying.
Yeah.
We're just fucking trying.
Yeah.
And
it can be hard because
yes,
you want, like, again, the people pleaser thing, it's like you just want to do all you can to help somebody. And also just knowing the medicine work, it's like, that they don't have to be in pain. That there's a way out, but there's no choice. You have to let people go on their own journey, go on their own healing journey, do their own work. So, like, sometimes it's so sad, I think, I'm sure for you here, and just, like, to witness people in that deep level of pain and watch them struggle and clumsily bump through it and not quite get this or not quite get that. And, like, not that it's for us to say not quite get, but I just mean there's a frustration that they're not getting there sooner, their pain is still there. And it's really hard and really sad to watch, but yeah, I don't know. You just kind of have to trust and allow people to do their own healing work, I guess.
Yes, and I'm gonna bring up a butterfly analogy again. I don't think I've said this one on the podcast yet, but I probably said it to you. But, like, it's really okay. So if a butterfly, you stumble across a butterfly in the cocoon and you see it struggling to get out, if you cut that cocoon open because you think you're helping the butterfly, oh, this butterfly looks like it's struggling to escape, let me just cut it out. And then you cut it out, the butterfly comes out, its wings are not fully formed because it literally needs to struggle against the sides of the cocoon to build the strength in its wings so that by the time it busts out, it's ready to basically fly.
Yeah.
And I think about that analogy all the time with humans, because if we try to cut them out of the cocoon, they might be missing the medicine that they needed from that experience. And, like, it's so hard and difficult to witness people in their pain when you feel like you said, we have solutions, we can help you, but, like, that is their medicine.
Yeah.
And it's like, just like how we were talking about our triggers are our medicine, it's like the struggle is the medicine. And it's just so hard to watch people struggle. It really is. But it's also just trusting, again, going back to trusting the process, trusting that, like, there is an intelligence here behind all of creation that's smarter than Brittany. Oh my God. Who would have thought?
Believe it or not, folks.
Believe it or not. It's just, who am I to say that I know, like, oh, this person's struggling, I need to help them, I need to fix them, I need to do, it's like, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe
you're so spot on. And I think I was, like, thinking about a couple people as I was talking before, so glad you brought up that analogy, because it's so true. And also just working on allowing people to do their own work and lending a helping hand when you can. But yes. And I remember this, it's so funny, this girl, so I went to this
San Pedro Wachuma retreat in Costa Rica that kind of helped me realize I need to quit my job because I'm there. I bring my laptop, I'm trying to do some work. I skipped the first ceremony out of 3 because I have to work and I couldn't take enough time off. And as I'm in the car in this 4-wheel Jeep going up to this resort with another guest, and he's asking me about it. And when he's asking me about why I'm working during a San Pedro ceremony, he seemed so confused that it made me question it too. I'm like, wait, why am I working like when I could be drinking plant medicine in an infinity pool? like what am I doing with my life? But I didn't quite have that thought yet. But as he was asking me this in a slightly, like, it wasn't a judgmental tone, but I think I interpreted it that way because I was judging myself.
Yeah.
Again,
sure.
Didn't realize this until later, but
yeah.
I heard him say that, and the girl who I love, her name's also Brittany, but I remember her just saying kind of offhanded to that guy, like, everyone has free will. And it was such a small sentence, again, that just stuck in my mind where I felt triggered. And then I sat with that later.
That would trigger me so
much because I was like, oh my God, they're judging me for working. What the
fuck?
Like
she's saying that's how I'm like choosing to like
live my life.
Yeah.
But then looking back, I'm like, oh my God, that is so funny because it did look so ridiculous. Looking back, I'm like, I'm this girl who's like bringing her laptop to this. I'm half in, half out.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I hated that so much, but they could see it.
Yeah.
And I think they were both just kind of like, dude, what is up with this girl? Like, why won't she just realize, like, you know, this is way more important than that?
Yeah.
And the other facilitator's like, you know, everyone has free will. Basically, like, shut up. She's going to do what she wants. She's going to learn on her own time. And that just stuck in me like a knife. And it really helped me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, we have free will. And it helped me not only with that own situation to realize, again, I was triggered because I was judging myself because I knew what I was doing wasn't aligned.
Yeah.
But it also helped me to realize that's a thought I can have in my head about other people. I don't need to say it out loud, but like if I'm viewing guests doing stuff that I'm like, what the fuck are you thinking? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Instead of saying that, it's just like, look, everyone has free will. We're out here just experimenting in this life playground. Like, they have free will. Who am I to say that this is wrong for them, you know?
It's so true. Like, to think that we know better than anybody, or like, I mean, because we never ever do. Like, the only person that knows better for us is our higher selves.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
I mean, and maybe every once in a while the plant medicine.
Ayahuasca. Which, like, may or may not be the same thing.
I mean, it's also like, you can't always trust that bitch, okay? I mean,
she's tricky.
Yeah, she is.
The plants are tricky.
She is definitely tricky. But no, ultimately it's true. And it's just a good lesson, I think, if you're going to be in this work, to just always remember that it's like everybody is the captain of their own ship, you know, and it's always our job to stay in our own boat.
Yes, and we don't want to be, we don't want to be the heroes for other people, because something Drew has, God, so many things Drew has taught me, but like, if I'm sitting here with a stomach problem, I don't know, I'm just using a very basic example, and there's a healer who can come along and just like suck some stuff out of my stomach with his mouth, and now the energy's gone, and he's like, okay, you're good to go. What did I learn from that? And how am I going to like face another problem that comes up later if they didn't teach me how they did that, why they did that, where it came from? And it's like his philosophy, Drew's philosophy is like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to help people, but I don't want to help people by giving them the answers. Just like ayahuasca doesn't usually help people by giving them the answers. What they do, Drew and ayahuasca and other people, is like, good teachers, they lead you to get your own answers. Yes. They ask the right questions. And that is so deep and special to me, because it also, again, gives this other person free will, lets them know that they're a sovereign being making their own choices, who can make their own correct decisions. And it doesn't make me a hero or their savior, or now they're relying on me to fix their life. It's like, no, we just led you to the answer. You had the answer. You have the answers.
And it builds that trust within yourself, which is like the thing you need most in this work, is to develop your own intuition, you know? And like, I think the way that you develop it or strengthen it is by listening to it, by tuning into it. And I think when they guide you in a certain way where you still have to find your own answers, it's like, okay, but now at least you're in this spot where you've been guided, but you have to find your own answers, and you can kind of work on that self-trust. It's like,
It's so funny too. I'm just laughing because I'm like, I'm still working on this.
Oh,
like,
well, duh.
I
mean,
still,
that's, yeah.
like, we talked about this so much, but it's like, I still don't like when someone just won't give me a fucking answer, especially when it's someone who I'm like, I know you know this, because like, you know, me in my position working with myself in plant medicines for a while, I do look at people and I'm like, I do know the answer for you.
I mean, I felt
quote,
like
unquote.
that. I felt like that this time. I feel like that with my mom, to be very frank. I mean, so yeah.
So I know they know. You know, I know these people who are like decades older than me and done work for decades. I know they know, but they don't tell me. And I hate that. And there's, of course I don't actually hate that. I love that. Like I really do, because, but in the moment when I'm sitting there asking them like for their advice, what do they think? What do they recommend? And they just keep turning it back to me. Yeah. Which happens all the time. Again, a part of me still doesn't like that, because I'm like, just tell me the answer. I know you know. But it has made me grow. It has made me learn to trust myself. It's gotten a little less uncomfortable to like turn to my inner mentor instead of turning to an outer mentor. Yeah. Which is, again, the most powerful thing you can learn. But like I said, I'm still in the gritty of that one. Like I still haven't.
But I think we will be, because I think like you're talking about people, but I also think that plants, it's like the same kind of relationship, right? Because plants, I mean, sometimes ayahuasca actually talks to you, but for the most part, they don't actually talk to you. No. So it's like developing this relationship with like their spiritual elements that you're taking or that you're working with. And it's like, what are they teaching you? Like a coca comes to mind, right? Like, and doing like some coca chews.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. So coca's awesome because it like peels back the layers, but it's like you're the one peeling back the layers, and
you're also the one inside of all the layers.
Yes. But coca just, it makes you be really honest with yourself, because coca loves to help.
Yes.
But it's very cool. Like I love that. I think like that's what's so awesome about developing relationships with these plants, is like you learn them, but really what you're learning is yourself. You know? I mean, it's like the coolest thing ever.
Yes. It really is.
Go plants.
Go plants.
Go coca.
Go coca. Okay. Well, this has been another really awesome conversation.
It really has. Wow. I loved
2 hours. Let's go. Okay, we're going to sign off. We love you guys so much.
Love you, fam.
Thanks for listening. Seriously, we love you. This has been so much fun and a pleasure. Like, I freaking love you. I
love you so goddamn much. That was a beautiful conversation. I'm proud of us. That was really...
I am too. And sending you guys all love.